Port claims a Cairns cliffhanger. Freo takes its biggest scalp yet, and the depleted Dees have enough in reserve to see off the Hawks. Hello and welcome to the round so far, brought to you by AAMI. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Cairns. It was a massive Saturday of football, so we'll get stuck straight into it, and we'll start in far north Queensland, where Port Adelaide scrapped their way to a 1-point win over the Saints.
Look at the score there, look at the time. These are the final moments. Both teams had their opportunities to win this game of footy there. Look, that puts the Saints up with 2 minutes 35 to go. Port Adelaide just kept coming so many inside 50s late. They had missed opportunities. So it was 1-7 to 1-5 in the last quarter. This one here from Butters had an opportunity to put Port Adelaide right in front. He misses. That levels the score with 1:43 to go. And then it was just some Robbie Gray smarts. If he's not the smartest footballer in the competition, he's got to be right up there. He just needed a point there. He knew that, and he was able to sneak that one through with 35 seconds to go. Ball came back out and back in. Robbie Gray was pretending to have a shot from about 60 metres when he can't kick 40 at his age, but sucked up 20 seconds, and a much-needed pressure-releasing win for Port Adelaide and Ken Hinkley.
2 on the trot now. St Kilda kicked 2:15 after quarter time. You might remember a game in Cairns last year. They brought Adelaide to Cairns last year. Riley Thilthorpe kicked a goal in the 31st minute of the game after St Kilda had led the whole night. It was almost a similar story against Port Adelaide on Saturday night. Have they sold 2 wins? I just want to sort of ask you, if this game's at Marvel, you're backing St Kilda to win 9 times out of 10.
What are they doing? They're not kicking 4 goals, 18 at Marvel, are they? And when you miss the finals by 1 game last year, when you're 5-1 heading into this game and you haven't won a premiership for 56 years, why are you selling home games and going to Cairns of all places? It was the worst spectacle of football I think I've ever seen, and they've cost themselves probably 2 wins that they just would not lose at Marvel. And if that comes back to haunt them later on in the year, when your fans are that starved for success, no amount of money can make up for missing the big stage, and that's the finals, which you just shouldn't miss from 5-1. So I think they need to have a really hard look at their strategy about going up and playing in that part of Australia.
Ken said after 0-5 that the Power could still play finals. They've now won 2 on the trot. Do you believe him?
I love his optimism. I mean, I love the answer, and I believe him, and he speaks honestly. Now, what I will say is that every win they have, you get closer to getting Dixon back, who's their most important player. You get closer to getting Fantasia back. You get a little bit closer to getting Lycett back, albeit he's a long way away, and some other reinforcements that are coming. So if they can just stick around, they're going to have to get on a run at some point. Big game next week against the Bulldogs at home on Friday night.
To GMHBA Stadium now, where Fremantle claimed its biggest win in the Justin Longmuir era. They were 23 points up at the 5-minute mark of the final term. They were made to battle, though, in this last quarter.
Win of the year. Unbelievable win. So this is the win of the year. Hardly anyone goes to Geelong and wins, not least Fremantle. I think it was 2015 in a final was their last win there. And with the players that they had out. I mean, we can talk about Fife and Darcy and Taberner, probably 3 of their most important 5, I reckon. But then you can add Young and you can add Chapman. So to go and do that and keep a Geelong side to 66 points, a side that's got Hawkins and Cameron in it when they had 54 entries was unbelievable. So their team defence is very Melbourne-esque. The way that, yes, they're defenders, and we spoke about them having one of the best back sixes in the game last week, but it's their full ground defence. They are ferocious and they are so well organised. I reckon they've done a lot of study on what Melbourne have done because they were impenetrable at times today.
That Mark Blitzar's goal brought the Geelong within 3 points with just a few seconds to go. I want to take your attention to this stoppage.
That's their scores. I mean, that's how hard they've been to score this year. They're just impossible to score against. They're averaging 59 points against Riley. And as I said, to keep Geelong to 66 when they average 87 points at GMHBA Stadium. So no one other than Melbourne is doing that. Now, can Fremantle win the premiership? Absolutely, if they keep that up and they get 5 back and they play him forward and Taberner comes back. So that is what premierships are built on. They're going to play a lot of games at home where they'll be really difficult to beat. So that is the measures of a premiership team. So they're going to be right around the mark. I needed to see them beat someone significant. That happened today.
This was the stoppage I was just talking about. So within 3 points, a matter of seconds to go in the game. It's a crucial occasion. You can see here, Geelong have 3 players forward of the ball. If this ball gets out, David Mundy ends up winning the clearance, but if this ball gets out, the Cats are away.
Yeah, smart from Geelong. They're trusting one to win it inside and then they'll own the outside. Now, Fremantle would have a spare behind the ball. We don't have access to that. They'd be thinking, well, we'll back our guys inside. We've been so strong all day inside, and even if they win it, it'll be a quick kick under pressure and we'll have the spare behind the ball. But that's the role of the dice, and Fremantle on the right end of that dice today.
We'll head to Marvel Stadium now, where Carlton got back on the winners list against North Melbourne. It was all set up by this third term. We've spoken about Carlton's third quarters throughout the year. They've been outscored by 117 points until Saturday night. 7 goals to 2 in this third term.
Yeah, 7 goals to 2, as you said. They lead by 40 points at 3-quarter time. Game over. So this was a smashing when you look at it. Plus 100 in disposals, plus 94 uncontested, plus 34 uncontested marks, and plus 18 entries. So, I mean, whenever anyone plays against North Melbourne or West Coast, you don't read too much into it, other than you feel really good about yourself. I love this from Wiedering. He doesn't kick many goals. I think you were telling me it's been 4 years since he's kicked his last, and you can see his teammates rally around him. So you get moments like this. You get a good feel-good story. You address some issues that were happening at 3-quarter time. You get players in really good form, and you move on really quickly and don't review it too closely, because North Melbourne are pretty awful.
Jacob Wiedering kicked that goal there. It was on the back of a double 50-metre penalty in a fiery third term. There was a couple of really nasty blows, brutal blows, body blows from both sides. We see this one here with Liam Stocker and Taran Thomas, who just missed a fair period with internal bruising as well.
I reckon Michael Christian's going to be busy. I mean, nothing in that from Horn Francis. That's just a free kick. Love the argy-bargy. So one thing I will say is that Horn Francis is special, and he had a real crack tonight, and he didn't care that he'd played 7 games. He was willing to make a statement and get under the skin of the opposition. So I like that about him. He's got future captain written all over him, and he was flying the flag. Didn't like that from Larky. So on Young, I reckon that will absolutely be looked at. Definite potential to cause injury, and you can see the Carlton teammates didn't like it, and rightly so. And then this one is very, very similar to Mitch Robinson on Xavier Dersma earlier on in the year. So Lewis Young on the other side will have a case to answer for if Mitch Robinson got a week for that hit in round 1 on Dersma.
Especially if Cam Zurhaar misses time. We'll head to AAMI Clangers now. Only one tonight, but it was a pretty big one. James Harms doesn't kick many goals and won't kick many as good as this, only for it to be taken off him by his own teammates.
Has he robbed him of the potential goal there? I don't think it's got Bolton's covered, but look, he's a good, hard-fought player, isn't he? Not many highlights. He's a good team player. That would have been a significant highlight for him. And McDonald's gone back. I know they're tight for spots. Wiedemann's there, Brown's there, and everyone's fighting. There's 3 fighting for 2 spots, so you want every goal. But he'd like to have his time back again, I reckon.
We'll stay at the MCG. Melbourne had 5 players out to health and safety protocols. They had 7 premiership players out of their side, but they still had Max Gawn. He is our Saturday star. He was unbelievable today. 29 disposals, 35 hit-outs, 9 clearances, 2 goals against Max Lynch, who actually got the better of him when he was playing for Collingwood on Queen's birthday last year.
Oh, he's enormous. I vote on the All-Australian team, so I'm not sure I can say this, but I will anyway. He would be my All-Australian captain right now. I don't think that's a big statement, but the way he is playing and how in control of his game and his ability to now do this. So prior to last year, he wasn't a goal kicker. So 16 goals last year, including 5 in that big final. He's kicked 7 again this year. So he's really understanding when the opportunity to float forward, and he has dramatically improved his goal kicking. And then he just... So the thing about a captain, you want inspirational moments, you want control, you want calm, and he just bobs up at the right time. I don't know what it is, but he's got an uncanny knack of just intercepting a mark or going forward and kicking a big goal. What a player he is. Melbourne's
forward line clicked like it hasn't often throughout the start of the season. Tom McDonald, Ben Brown, they got on top of Sam Frost in particular against his former side. Now, this is just an awesome kick from Christian Petrarca, but Frost, a little bit out of position, and then from here he goes on and concedes 3 goals to Ben Brown, all from free kicks against.
Well, it's a bit the story of his career, isn't it, Sam Frost? Like, he can look like an unbelievable defender and offensive, and you think, wow, this guy's a well-beater, and then he can do this, and he can look really sloppy and make just blatant errors. So 3 of these free kicks that you mentioned resulted in direct goals. I mean, that's just losing contact with your opponent and panicking, as defenders can do when you're under the pump and the ball's coming in. So in a really tight game where they lose by 10 points, he's given away 5 free kicks and 3 resulted in goals. Not a great night for Frosty, unfortunately.
I think we need to give Hawthorn some credit. We've spoken in the past about how Melbourne can just blow sides away. They kicked 6 of 7 goals after half-time, led by 33 points late in the third quarter. A lot of sides roll over in this situation. Yep. Hawthorn didn't. They fought back. They got it back to 10 in the last.
I love what Sam Mitchell's doing, and he's not afraid to throw the magnets around, and he has his team ready to go from the first bounce. And we've seen that throughout the year, and we saw that that last week against Sydney. Yeah, young side weren't good enough and were blown away in the end. Tonight they were there. They were up for the fight early. And they weren't blown away, as you said, like Melbourne have done, particularly in third quarter. So I reckon they had a method to just control the ball a little bit more and actually try and go around Melbourne's defence a little bit, plus 22 in uncontested marks tonight. So he's a very good coach. Dylan Moore spent more time on ball, career high 33 for him, including 25 in the second half. Tom Mitchell went forward and kicked a big goal late. So love what Sam Mitchell's doing. I think he could be a really special coach when he gets the pieces of the puzzle from a playing list around him.
We mentioned Melbourne had 7 premiership players out of their side. It meant guys like Toby Bedford got a game. He's been sub in all 6 of Melbourne's matches before tonight and was unused in the last 5 of them. Comes in today and kicks 2 goals. And Melbourne really got around him as well.
It's a good story. Like late draft pick in 2018. So you sit there for 3 and 4 seasons. And as you said, he's been the sub in all but one of his games, isn't it? No, he's been sub in 6 previous games. 5 of them are unused, and then finally gets his opportunity. So that may be in the finals. Like, who knows with COVID? So Dunstan comes in, Melksham comes in. They play Brown, McDonald, Wiedemann. That's the thing that's frightening for me about Melbourne is the depth that they've got. They've got more depth than anyone. Who else could have coped with 5 players out for COVID like that and 7 premiership players missing? No one could have, bar the Dees.
It was seamless for the Dees. We'll head to Friday night now, Optus Stadium. It was an absolute nightmare for the Eagles. They lose by 109 points to Richmond. This was the Eagles' horror show. They conceded 134 points from turnover, which was just the second most since 2000.
Yeah, so I don't want this to mask the issues that the Eagles had. So we've spoken about this. Their issues date way back, and this has been building and bubbling away. It's got little to do with COVID and injury. It's got to the point where their list is ageing. They've overpaid players that don't deserve it, and they've neglected the draft, as you've pointed out on this show, and their last top 10 draft pick was Andrew Gaff. Compare that with anyone else in the competition, and it makes for ugly reading. So they are a weak team at the moment, and teams are coming to prey on them. And it's unfortunate that we have a team in that position this early on in the season. It's not great for the competition, and they shouldn't be playing on Friday night. It's
their worst start to a season in club history. Now, Kane, I want to get your response to this because Adam Simpson had some choice words for you during the week.
To be honest, I haven't read anything that Kane Corns has written or heard anything he said, so irrelevant is what comes to my mind about what his opinion is. Yeah, I think that's a little bit unfair if that's the criticism on him. He's played, 12 or 13 games in the last 40, so he's working really hard and I'll back him in.
Yeah, the criticism was about Elliot Yeo and the way that he's prepared himself. I think the standards have slipped at West Coast, so I'm not necessarily fussed whether Adam Simpson has read or heard the comments. I would love for him to answer the question, do you think you've prepared your players as best physically as you possibly can? And have you allowed your players to get away with taking shortcuts? Because my opinion from looking at the way that they've presented themselves is yes. And when you're going to lose a lot of games, you're going to have a lot of young players coming in through the draft in the upcoming years. All you've got to hang your hat on is elite standards and turning a culture around that is clearly fractured at the moment.
We'll head to the Adelaide Oval now, where the Giants got a surprise win. They were 10 goals up at half-time against the Crows just to ease some of the pressure on Leon Cameron. It was their senior players that really stood up.
Well, so why? Why can their senior play, when they play like this, they can beat anyone? So Adelaide come off the back of 2 really good wins against solid opponents in Richmond and the Bulldogs in Ballarat, and they are blown away by this ravenous defensive unit that turns the footy over and does this on offence. And you get 10 goals out of Whitfield, Canelio and Green. So I don't even care how many possessions that man Whitfield gets. I want to see how many are in the forward half of the ground. So can we move him from half back to high half forward and get him doing damage? 19 touches, 3 goals, maximum damage. Canelio, don't worry about getting 36, 20, 3 goals, bang, and then Toby Green's always going to give 100%, and then Kelly was much more damaging with his 41 today. So their senior players come to play like that. Not many teams are going to beat them, but I thought it was a terrific performance and a little bit like what Port Adelaide did for Ken Hinkley. That was a significant win for their coach who was under the pump.
You mentioned Toby Green, 4 goals from 17 touches. You want to highlight this mark, though?
You reckon anyone else in the competition would go for this mark, right? I want your honest opinion on this. So we'll see this front-on vision and think, wow, what a mark that. But then I had a look behind the goals. From that position, I reckon every small forward bar Toby Green is running to the goal square or front and square. They're not. Even Luke Brown had no idea his opponent was going to fly for that. That gives you an insight into the mindset of this guy and why he's an absolute star of the competition. They had no answers for him in the first half where he kicked 4 goals. That's just amazing vision how much he backs himself in to just attack the footy and that be his sole focus.
He's an incredibly unique player. We'll head to the rest of the round now. It's highlighted by the twilight game, Sydney-Brisbane, which is going to be an absolute classic. But before that, Collingwood plays Gold Coast at the MCG. The Suns beat them at the G last year, and the Dogs play Essendon.
Yeah, well, the best game is clearly the Sydney-Brisbane game. If it's at the Gabba, you think, geez, but Sydney are going to challenge them, aren't they? I can't wait for that one. Should have been the Friday night game. And unfortunately, the biggest storyline will come from the loser out of Essendon, the Bulldogs, and how players with as much talent as Dylan Shield are left out of that side. Something's up at the Bombers.
We'll get to our one more thing now. It was a fiery contest at Marvel Stadium, but this was a really touching moment. Ben Cunnington and Sam Docherty, who have each battled their own testicular cancer diagnosis over the last 12 to 18 months. This was great to see.
Yeah, the game's good when you see this, isn't it? Just the support, the overwhelming support for both of those. Great to see Ben looking so healthy with a smile on his face, and Sam Docherty's blown me away. He's almost been the story of the year, the way that he's returned to playing unbelievable football.
He's had a great start. That's a great note to end on, Kane. Thanks for your time.
See you next week.
See you next week.